Don't drink that. The words slipped out before Lisa Webb could stop them. Her hand trembled as she reached across the white linen table and switched the two crystal wine glasses in one smooth, desperate motion. The glass that had been meant for celebration now sat harmlessly in front of her. The other, clear, elegant, lethal, rested inches from the billionaire's fingers. For a fraction of a second, the world refused to react. Good day, everyone. How are you all doing today? Trust you are ready to jump on this story, but before we continue, subscribe, like, and share to your friends and family. Now, let us continue. Soft jazz floated through time, square restaurant. Silverware chimed against porcelain. Laughter rose from nearby tables beneath the glow of chandeliers and the distant hum of Manhattan traffic outside. No one screamed. No one gasped. Except Bruno Talley froze. New York's most untouchable real estate mogul stared at Lisa, as if she'd just shattered an invisible rule. His fingers tightened around the stem of the glass, knuckles widening. Confusion flickered across his face, then irritation, then something sharper. Something alert. Lisa's heart slammed against her ribs. She wasn't supposed to speak. She wasn't supposed to notice anything beyond refilling glasses and clearing plates. But she had seen it. The quick tilt of a hand at the far end of the table. The brief glimmer of a vial, the way a clear liquid vanished into the wine, as if it had never been there at all. 3 seconds. That was all she'd had to decide whether to stay invisible or step into something she couldn't outrun. 3 seconds to choose between keeping her job and saving the life of a man who would never know her name. She chose. A chair scraped loudly against marble. Someone laughed too hard. Then a glass shattered. The sound cracked through the restaurant as a man collapsed forward, his body hitting the floor with a sickening finality. Conversations stuttered and died. Forks clattered. A woman screamed. Bruno's gaze snapped from the fallen man to the untouched glass in front of him, then back to Lisa. Understanding dawned slowly, heavily. The realization settled into his chest like ice. The drink hadn't been meant for the man on the floor. It had been meant for him. Lisa stood frozen, every instinct screaming for her to run. Around her, the restaurant erupted into chaos. Servers rushing, patrons standing, security moving too late. But Bruno never took his eyes off her. In that moment, Lisa understood something terrifying. Saving his life wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a far more dangerous one. One that would follow her long after the sirens faded and the restaurant doors closed. And she had no idea how much she was about to lose. By the time Lisa Webb stepped off the subway in Queens, the adrenaline had drained from her body, leaving only exhaustion behind. The platform smelled of damp concrete and stale air. Her reflection in the train window looked older than 30, eyes hollow, shoulders curved inward, like someone who had learned to take up as little space as possible. That was survival. That was New York. Her apartment was quiet when she unlocked the door. Too quiet. A stack of unopened bills waited on the kitchen counter. Electric, rent, the medical payment she kept promising she'd catch up on. She dropped her keys beside them and exhaled slowly, as if breathing too loudly might wake the weight of it all. Malik was sprawled on the couch, headphones on, algebra homework open but ignored. 14 and already sharper than he let on. Vulnerable in ways she pretended not to see. "You eat?" she asked. He nodded without looking up. "Saved you some." That small kindness nearly undid her. Lisa had learned early how to disappear. In restaurants, you moved quietly, spoke softly, never lingered. You learned how to be useful without being seen. And as a black woman, silence wasn't just expected, it was rewarded. Question nothing. Notice nothing. Survive. But the man's eyes wouldn't leave her mind. The CFO. The way he'd watched her after the glass shattered. Not surprised. Not confused. Calculating. Hours later, her hands were still shaking. Some stories only survive because someone chooses to witness them. Because someone refuses to look away when it's easier to stay invisible. And if you believe moments like that matter, if you've ever felt the cost of being unseen, then you already understand why this story is being told. A knock at the door jolted her upright. Lisa's heart leapt in her throat. Malik pulled off his headphones. They stared at each other in silence as the knock came again, lighter this time. She checked the peephole. No one there. The hallway was empty when she opened the door. Still, silent. Lisa locked it carefully, sliding the deadbolt into place. She lay awake until morning, every sound magnified, every shadow stretching too long. Because somewhere across the city, powerful men were realizing a waitress had seen something she wasn't supposed to. And once you're seen, you can never be invisible again. Bruno Talley watched the footage without blinking. The security video played on a seamless loop across the glass wall of his penthouse. One angle from above, another from behind the bar, a third frozen on the moment a hand tilted and a vial caught the light. Every replay made the truth harder to ignore. The poison had been real. The lab confirmed it an hour earlier. Colorless, tasteless, fast-acting, lethal within minutes. The kind that didn't leave room for mistakes or survival. The glass on the table beside him remained untouched. Bruno stared at it like it might still betray him. He'd built his life on control, controlling deals, people, outcomes. In boardrooms and back channels, he was always 3 steps ahead. And yet someone had nearly ended him over dinner. Someone inside his circle. The thought settled into his chest like a slow burn. The CFO's collapse replayed in his mind, not as shock, but as miscalculation. The wrong man had drunk the wrong glass. The plan hadn't failed, it had missed. Bruno leaned back, exhaling sharply as the illusion he'd lived inside cracked open. Power didn't make him untouchable. It made him a target. Later, alone in the quiet of a private hospital suite, he found his thoughts drifting, not to board members or rival firms, but to the woman in black who had stepped forward when she should have disappeared. The waitress. She hadn't shouted. She hadn't panicked. She'd moved like someone trained to survive, not to be seen. And after the glass shattered and the room erupted, she hadn't run. Why? Who risks everything for a stranger who signs deals worth more than entire neighborhoods? Who chooses a billionaire's life over their own safety without hesitation? Bruno closed his eyes and saw her again. Steady gaze, trembling hand, defiance hidden beneath exhaustion. She'd looked at him like he was human, not untouchable. That unsettled him more than the poison ever could. He opened his eyes and reached for his phone. "Find the waitress," he said calmly. Deliberately, quietly. The line went dead. Across the city, Lisa Webb slept lightly, unaware that the man who wasn't supposed to die had just turned his full attention toward her. And once Bruno Talley decided to find someone, they never stayed hidden for long. Lisa knew something was wrong the moment she stepped into the apartment. The air felt disturbed, like a room that had been breathing while she was gone. The front window was still locked. Nothing lay overturned. No drawers yanked open. Whoever had been there hadn't rushed. Her eyes moved quickly, instinctively, the way they had since that night at the restaurant. The couch cushions were out of place. Malik's backpack sat where it shouldn't have been. And on the coffee table, his laptop was gone. Not the TV, not the cash she kept hidden in a shoebox. Just the laptop. Her phone rang before she could process it. A blocked number. She answered with a shallow breath. "Hello. You should have minded your business." The line went dead. Lisa stood frozen. Phone pressed to her ear long after the call ended. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. This wasn't a warning. It was confirmation. They knew who she was. That afternoon, Malik came home quieter than usual. His shoulders were tense, his eyes darting behind him as he dropped his backpack by the door. "Someone was following me," he said, trying and failing to sound casual. "Probably nothing." Lisa's chest tightened. She pulled him into a hug before he could protest, holding on longer than necessary. This wasn't nothing. This was the cost of being seen. The danger wasn't some distant threat tied to powerful men in tailored suits. It wasn't locked inside boardrooms or security footage. It had crossed the river. It had touched her home, her brother. That night, Lisa stood at the window long after Malik fell asleep. The street below was quiet, washed in orange light from the street lamps. Then she saw it, headlights across the road, engine running, unmoving. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The car didn't leave. Lisa closed the blind slowly, her hands steady now in a way that frightened her more than fear ever had. Whatever she'd stepped into at that restaurant was no longer watching from a distance. It was waiting. The knock came at 8:03 a.m., firm, deliberate. When she opened the door, Bruno Talley stood there, immaculate in a charcoal suit, the city's cold light cutting across his face. His presence filled her tiny living room like an unwelcome confession. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice low. Malik was still asleep in the next room. "I could say the same," Bruno replied, glancing at the boarded window, the shattered frame from last night's break-in. "You're being watched, Lisa. Let me handle this." He laid a black envelope on the table. Inside, a keycard, a phone, and a promise. A secure penthouse. Guards. Cash. Silence. Lisa's laugh came sharp, almost cruel. "You think you can buy what's left of my peace?" "I think I can keep you alive," he said simply. That word, alive, hung between them. She turned away, crossing her arms. "You don't get it. I don't trust billionaires. People like you don't protect girls like me. You own them." Bruno didn't flinch. "Then tell me how to help without owning you." For the first time, she saw something real in his eyes. Exhaustion, guilt, maybe gratitude he didn't know how to express. Sometimes, choosing empathy over fear feels dangerous. But if you've ever stood at that edge, heart pounding, faith trembling, you already understand why stories like this matter. A crash split the silence. Lisa sprinted to the window. Down on the street, Malik's bike lay twisted under a black SUV, speeding away. Her breath caught, and that's when she made the hardest call of her life. The brownstone sat behind wrought iron gates and motion sensors, the kind of place meant to look quiet but built for siege. Lisa didn't relax, even after 3 ID checks, and a metal door sliding shut behind them. Bruno's people called it a safe house. To her, it felt like a cage with better furniture. Malik explored every corner, wide-eyed, whispering about how soft the towels were. Bruno stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, voice sharp as glass. Names and numbers flew, board members, shell corporations, offshore accounts. Pieces of a puzzle he once thought he owned. Lisa watched him from the kitchen, arms folded, feeling the distance between their worlds stretch and strain. "So this is what money buys," she muttered. He ended his call and looked at her. "No, this is what fear costs." That night, the storm outside blurred the skyline. Malik had finally fallen asleep on the couch, wrapped in a blanket too big for him. Bruno poured 2 glasses of water and joined Lisa at the dining table, the air heavy with everything unsaid. "Why'd you do it?" he asked quietly. "At the restaurant. You could have walked away." Lisa's gaze didn't waver. "Because no one else would." The words landed like truth dropped from a height. Simple, final, and impossible to ignore. For a man who had built empires by reading people, he suddenly couldn't read himself. Something in him cracked, soft and human. "I've spent years trusting numbers," he said, almost to himself. "They never lie. People do." "Then maybe you've been asking the wrong ones," Lisa replied. He smiled, small, real. And for the first time since the poisoning, silence didn't feel like danger. Then the lights flickered. Once. Twice. A shrill alarm split the air, red lights washing across the walls. Malik jolted awake. Bruno was already reaching for the gun beneath the table. Lisa froze, heart racing, as the security feed on the wall blinked to black. Someone was inside. The alarm screamed through the brownstone at 3:07 a.m. A single, slicing sound that ripped through sleep and silence alike. Lisa was on her feet before she even understood why. Malik's door. That was all that mattered. She ran barefoot down the hallway, heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to warn her of something she already knew. "Under the bed, baby. Now." Her voice was calm, too calm, as she shoved Malik's backpack beside him and closed the door without looking back. Downstairs, the front lock gave way with a metallic crack. A shadow moved through the foyer, slow, deliberate, trained. Not a burglar, a professional. Lisa grabbed the fireplace poker, pressing herself against the wall. Every muscle trembled, but her mind was sharp. "If he gets past me, he gets to Malik." That thought steadied her hand. Then, a voice, low, male, distorted through a mask. You should have stayed quiet. The lights cut out. For one heartbeat, she thought it was over, until a flash of movement filled the dark. Gunfire burst through the room. Glass exploded. Lisa hit the floor, the poker clattering away. When she opened her eyes, the assassin was pinned. Bruno's head of security crouched over him, blood slick on the marble, radio crackling for backup. The man's mask tore free, revealing eyes that were terrifyingly calm. Bruno stormed in seconds later, guns still raised. Lisa, Malik. She nodded, shaking, voice barely a whisper. We're okay. But Bruno wasn't listening to her words. His gaze was fixed on the attacker's arm. A tattoo, faint but familiar. A mark used by his own corporate security firm. God, he muttered, realization sinking in. They're not coming for me anymore. Lisa looked at him, confused. Then who? For you, he said, voice low. You're the witness they can't afford to let live. Outside, sirens wailed closer. And somewhere in the distance, a camera flash pierced the night. Someone was already telling the world. By winter's end, New York was a city made of headlines. Screens glowed with Bruno Talley's name, once synonymous with untouchable wealth, now tangled with words like fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. The same faces that had toasted him in penthouses were now filing into courtrooms in handcuffs. Lisa watched it all unfold from the witness stand. Her voice didn't shake. Her palms didn't sweat. She told the truth about the wine, the poison, the cover-up, and when she finished, the courtroom was silent enough to hear the sound of someone's pen drop. Bruno sat at the defense table, no lawyer speaking for him now. He had dismantled his own empire piece by piece, selling properties, dissolving boards, cutting away everything built on greed. What remained of him was a man trying, finally, to do something right. Outside, cameras flashed as she left the courthouse. For the first time in her life, people saw her, not as a waitress, not as a witness, but as a woman who refused to disappear. Bruno met her on the courthouse steps. The winter wind whipped between them, carrying the city's noise away. You changed everything, he said quietly. Lisa gave a small, tired smile. No, I just told the truth. He nodded, eyes heavy with something unspoken. Truth costs, more than money ever will. She looked out over the crowd, thinking of Malik, of the nights she'd almost given up. Then maybe it's worth paying for. Reporters shouted their names as black cars pulled up. The world was watching. But for once, Lisa didn't care who saw. And as the doors closed behind her, a phone buzzed in Bruno's pocket. An unknown number, one message. You think this is over? It wasn't. Spring settled over Queens like a long exhale. The streets were noisy again. Kids chasing basketballs, corner stores humming with music and gossip. Inside a small soul food cafe on 165th Street, the air smelled of cornbread, coffee, and something warmer. Peace. Lisa moved behind the counter with easy grace, greeting customers by name. The walls were painted in sunlight colors. Malik's college acceptance letter framed above the register. Her name, Lisa Webb's Kitchen, shown in gold lettering across the window. She poured sweet tea into 2 glasses, humming softly to the jazz playing from a small radio. Then the bell over the door chimed. Bruno Talley stepped in quietly, wearing no suit this time, just a gray sweater and tired eyes. For a moment, he seemed out of place, until he smiled. I heard the food here could change a man's life, he said. Lisa chuckled, shaking her head. You should know that better than anyone. They sat at a small corner table, the same way they had months ago. 2 people divided by worlds, now bound by truth. No speeches, no promises, just gratitude. Bruno lifted his glass, and Lisa matched the gesture. This time, no poison, just life. The light through the window caught the glasses midair, turning them into tiny mirrors of everything they'd survived. There are moments when stories end not with noise, but with quiet, when survival becomes legacy, and legacy becomes lesson. If one quiet act of courage can ripple this far, imagine how many stories are still waiting to be told and witnessed. Maybe yours is one of them. Lisa smiled, eyes soft but certain. To second chances, she said. Bruno nodded. And to the ones brave enough to make them. Their glasses touched, an echo of the night that changed everything. Thank you for watching. Trust you love the story. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Support us by subscribing, liking, and sharing. See you in the next one. Bye.